Okay. So, the first question says a part of an exponential function is graphed on the grid. Which inequality best represents the domain of the part shown? So, remember that to remember domain, we write Dixieroid. It's a weird word, but it should help us remember that domain, input, x values, and independent variables all go together. And then range is the output, the y values, and the dependent variables. Okay, so we know the domain goes with x, so we can automatically cross off b and d. And so now it's in between x is greater than or equal to -2 or x is greater than or equal to 4.5. So the 4.5 comes from here and the -2 comes from here, right? And remember, domain is x values, so we're going to be using the number that's on the x-axis, and therefore it is a. The 4.5 would have been a number used for the range. All right, number 42, we are just solving this equation. So let's work through this. This is actually what our next unit is going to be reviewing. So 4 times 17. Okay, so our first step when solving equations is to distribute. So I'm going to distribute the negative, and I'm going to distribute the 4. So that's going to give me -6m minus 8. Remember, the negative just changes the sign of everything. Equals, and then 4 times 10 is 40 plus 4 times 7, which is 28. So 40 plus 28 is 68 minus 4m. Then we need to get our variables on the same side. So I can either add 6m or 4m to both sides. I'm going to add 6m to both sides. And that leaves me with -8 equals 68 plus 2m. Then we do reverse PEMDAS, so we subtract 68 from both sides first, which will give us -76 equals 2m. And then we just divide both sides by 2 because the 2 and the m are touching. That means they're being multiplied, so the opposite would be to divide. And -76 divided by 2 equals -38. Alrighty, moving on to 43. So which function is equivalent to 3 times x plus 2 squared plus 7? So this is going to be done in our calculator. So we can plug in our first equation. And so I'm going to do this like a little bit of a different way than we've been doing it so that you can see like another way to do it. So let me pull up my calculator. Hold on one second. All right, so this is where we left off last time. So to get out of the table, I'm going to quit out of it. So quit is the button next to the blue button. Oops, sorry, not mode. So we press second and then the button next to second to quit and get out of like whatever program you're in. Then we're going to go to y equals, and I'm going to plug in the equation from our problem, which is 3 times x plus 2 squared The squared button is 2 buttons below the green button. Sorry, 3 buttons below the green button. Plus 7. Remember the parentheses are above 8 and 9. And then I'm just going to go one at a time. So I'm going to go 3x squared. So I'm going to plug in a plus 12x plus 33. You guys should be plugging this into your calculator with me so you can practice pressing the buttons. Then we're going to hit graph and see if it gives us the same line on top of each other. All right, so as you can see, we've got a red line and a blue line, and they're not the same, so we can cross off A as one of our answer choices. And I'm not really sure what that other red line is. Okay, now let's plug in B. So we've got 3x squared plus 12x plus 19. Hold on one second. I've got some students outside my room. Okay, sorry about that. So we plug in our equation. Tyler, did you figure it out?
Just deletes everything when I press clear.
Yeah, right. That's what you wanted, right?
No, I want to just square and then unsquare.
Oh, you just arrow to the right. Okay, but there's a squared button, so you don't have to do caret 2. The squared button is 3 buttons below the green button. Okay, so we're gonna hit graph, and it ends up being one line on top of the other. Oh, it's in trace, that's why. Okay. Okay, so that gave us 2 of the same line, so we know that our answer is B. Okay, and then you would plug in the other 2 equations just to double check, and you would see that they would not give you the same line twice, so our answer cannot be C or D. Okay, so 44 is requiring you to remember the rule with functions. So functions cannot have repeated x values. So no repeated x values. So in order for any of these to be a function, they cannot have repeated x values. So we can automatically cross off f because it has 13, 13, negative 13, negative 13, negative 13. We can cross off g because it has -1 and -1. We can cross off j because it has 0 and 0. So all of those are not functions, and the only one left is h. Okay. So, looking at number 45. What is the equation and slope-intercept of a line that passes through the point 5, 0 and is parallel to the line represented by y equals 1.2x plus 3.8? So for this one, we're going to take our x1 and y1. And parallel means it has the same slope. And then we're going to write our equation. So if it has the same slope, we can already cross off B and D. So if you don't remember all of these future steps that I'm about to do, just know that you can have a 50-50 chance of getting the answer right if you remember that the slope has to be the same for parallel lines. Okay. So we are first going to use point slope form. That's supposed to be 2 words. So point slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. It's on your formula chart. And so we know that we're using 1.2 as our m, 5 as our x1, and 0 as our y1. So we've got y minus 0 equals m, which is 1.2, times x minus x1, which is 5. Okay, so now what we're going to do is distribute. So we can get rid of the minus 0. That doesn't do anything. And then we distribute this 1.2. So that would give us 1.2x minus 6. And so our answer is A. Okay, number 46 says the graph of the quadratic function k is shown on the grid. Which statements are best supported by the graph of k? So the x-intercept is located at -3, 0. So the way you do these problems is you just go down each one and you do a check or an x next to it. So it crosses the x-axis at -3, 0. That is correct. Remember, coordinates go x, comma, y. So the x coordinate is -3 and the y coordinate is 0. So number 1 is true, and therefore we can cross off H. So it's all about like getting rid of answer choices. The coordinates of the y-intercept are 0, 9. So 0, 9 is right here, and that is where it crosses the y-axis. So number 2 is correct. So we can cross off G. So now we have a 50-50 chance of getting it right. Now, the axis of symmetry is something that we were not able to cover during class this year. The axis of symmetry is always x equals whatever the x value is. It's an invisible line that cuts our parabola in half. And so think of symmetry as something that's symmetric. It's the same on both sides. And so it's a vertical line. So it's an x equals line through the x value of the vertex, which is -3. So number 3 is correct. Therefore, our answer is J. That one is tough. We will not know how to do every single problem on the test, but if you can cross off a couple of them, then you're going to be more likely to get that question right that you guessed on. All right, one more. A college student has 2 different jobs. Her combined work schedules consist of no more than 48 hours in 1 week. So no more than 48 hours. Circle that. That's important. Which graph best represents the solution set for all possible combinations of x, the number of hours she worked at her first job, and y, the number of hours she worked at her second job in 1 week? All right, so let's look at these graphs. And let's cross off some answer choices. So she wants to work no more than 48 hours. And we can see on this line that it goes above 48. Do you guys see that? So we can automatically cross off C. And same with D, it goes above 48, so we can cross off D. And now we're down to 2 answer choices. Okay, one has it shaded above 48 and one has it shaded below 48. All right, so think about that. If she can have no more than 48 hours, then that means that she should be below 48 hours of working. Okay, so that means that we should shade below. You don't actually have to graph things when they're graphed for you. You just have to get rid of answer choices. So if you were able to get rid of C and D on your own, then you already narrowed down your choices to 2. And you have a 50-50 chance instead of a 25% chance of getting it right. Test taking strategies, guys, they are going to be key next week. So that's what we've got for today. Tomorrow is our last day. Sorry, Monday is our last day of STAAR review. And then y'all come in on Tuesday and take the test. Okay. Make sure you're getting comfortable with your graphing calculators. And make sure you guys are asking questions if there's something you don't understand.